Welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guest on this next interview. The appeal proceedings in Paris involving Marine Le Pen are now underway, reopening a case centered on the use of European Parliament funds and an immediate ban from public office imposed at first instance. The outcome could have significant legal and political implications in France and beyond. Joining us on TVP World to discuss the broader context is Benjamin Sibille, founder of the European CIvic Service Collective and spokesperson for the Paris 2024 Civic Group. Hello and welcome back again to TVP World.
Dobry wieczór, Benjamin.
Great. So let's focus on the Marine Le Pen case and looking at the appeal. The focus is on the use of European Parliament assistance funds. In more simple terms, what is the appeal court being asked to reassess compared with the first ruling?
So basically, the French legal and judiciary system is built in 3 layers of judgment. There is, of course, a classical court that everyone is familiar, and this is the one who actually judged the case and decided for Marine Le Pen to be condemned. Not actually only her, but also the other leaders of what was called at the time Front National, so the main party of far right in France, were all condemned by this first court. And then, of course, it is possible to appeal this type of judgment, and that's what is right now happening. So it's basically a rejudgment. The case is reopened from the beginning, looking at all elements, and potentially, eventually, if the first judgment would be confirmed, there is also the possibility to again appeal to the higher court, which is called the Cour de Cassation. And in this case, this last court is not judging the matter of the case, but only the legal aspect of it.
Right, and we're talking about the case of misuse of European funds, but traditionally hiring politically affiliated staff is not uncommon practice across the European Parliament. What, according to the prosecution, made this case cross a legal line?
So it's not so uncommon, but that's not exactly what happened. Again, what Marine Le Pen is accused and was condemned a first time of having been done is not so uncommon, but basically it is engaging and hiring some assistant, officially as an assistant of MEP, because she was a parliamentary of the European Parliament at the time. But those assistants actually have been accused of not working even a single day at the European Parliament, but only being sent to the party, to national affairs in France, especially very local affairs for local election, and to have been completely devoted to very local and national affairs. This is not uncommon. This is something that has been already condemned in other cases for the European Parliament, but it is, of course, illegal. In total, it is a little bit more than 4 million euros, so a little bit more than 20 million zlotys that have been misused in this way.
Right. The defense argues that assistant did real work connected to political activity. How does the court typically distinguish between legitimate parliamentary work and misuse of funds?
It can be, first, one element which is always very much observed is where this work takes place. When it is someone who is actually sitting in the parliament, accompanying the MEP in Brussels or Strasbourg, of course, it is very much more difficult to say if this type of work is connected or not to EU affairs. But in most of the element of the case, those people were never actually sitting in Brussels or in Strasbourg. Still, every MEP, even in very legal ways, has some people who are actually in the original circumscription of the MEP, where he's elected, and are doing some local work, connecting with the local population and so on. But basically, the people who were hired, a lot of them were actually sitting in Paris, so not even in the actual circumscription where they were supposed to accompany the MEP. And a lot of them were actually almost entirely devoted to the work of the party. So working on some stuff like preparing electoral campaigns, and especially presidential or legislative or even municipal and local campaigning.
All right, so now the picture is a little bit more clear here. That is, they're being paid with European money, but he's carrying out essentially party work. Is that the case?
Yeah, more or less. At least that's what has been judged the first time, and what is still being accused of being the case. Yes.
Right. Now, from the outside looking in, though, we do know that currently Marine Le Pen and her party is polling very well. It's generally accepted that the first round of election in the upcoming presidential race, she might be able to take the first round. And with this lawsuit coming in right now, with the addition of immediate ban from public office imposed, at a first glance, you can see how this, from an outsider's perspective, might look very much politically targeted.
It might be a possibility. Of course, the current context tends to plea for that. Again, according to Article 65 of the French Constitution, the judiciary is independent in France, like in all democracy, but it is still a possibility that there is some influence of the local context. And actually, it shows in the strategy of defense that has decided to follow now Mrs. Le Pen. I will come back to that. But considering the penalty of ineligibility, it must be reminded that actually it is forbidden for any public servant, so it can be civil servant, what we call in France fonctionnaire, or elected people, to exerce this type of responsibility when they have been legally condemned. So it's not the case that there was a special penalty put on Mrs. Le Pen or her co-defendant, but actually, as long as she is condemned for grave and deep accusation, it is normal, according to French law, that she is not allowed to run for election. Now, what can we see in her strategy of defense? Last time, she was very defensive, accusing the system of being rigged, accusing the judiciary to being held for political reasons, accusing also the absence of any fact confirming the accusation against her. This is not anymore the strategy which is followed in front of the Cour d'appel. Basically, she's saying that everyone seems to agree that what was done by her party and by herself was illegal, but she was not aware of the illegality of it. So she's trying to say, okay, we did something bad, but we didn't know, which could be appreciated by the judge and leading to a lesser offense retained against her.
All right, let's say if the court actually goes through, but the election shows Bardella winning, even if Marine Le Pen is barred from taking part. What would then her political future become? Can we expect her to still have any role in the office or taking up like a backseat driver type of position?
I mean, originally, Front National is very much a family business. The father of Mrs. Le Pen, Jean-Marie Le Pen, tended to incarnate this far right for a long time, actually from the war in Algeria, because he was serving there, being accused also of running torture acts for the French army at the time. And this is a tradition where the Front National is coming, also melted afterwards with some neo-Nazis movement post-World War II. So basically, Marine Le Pen inherited a position running the Front National, so it will be a very first to see someone outside of the family to actually get the first position. Of course, there is not much alternative if she is condemned. She has also a niece, also called Le Pen, but who went out of the party, now is back to the party after some kind of betrayal of the party before the last EU elections. So there is still alternative to Mr. Bardella, but he seems to be quite popular with a party basis. Of course, some commentators have said that actually accusing Marine Le Pen and making sure that she could be condemned, even if, again, the judiciary is independent in France, it could be a strategy, notably from Mr. Macron or others, to try to divide the party and try to entice some kind of struggle between Mrs. Le Pen and Mr. Bardella. Because the party was divided previously, and always it led to bad political results. So maybe this is also what is pursued. And in this case, if Marine Le Pen eventually is not held ineligible anymore, will be raised the question, will she be the candidate for the presidential election? And what Mr. Bardella and the one supporting him will say about that. Will they accept this type of decision, or will it lead to some kind of internal struggle inside the Front National?
Do you think that this strategy might also have a chance of backfiring? Looking at the U.S. 2024 election cycle, also the lawsuit targeting towards now U.S. President Donald Trump, this, for a lot of people, are a turning point, and that is when the billionaire Elon Musk officially turned to support him, big figures like Joe Rogan as well. Do you think there is a chance that this lawsuit might actually also be one of those pivoting, turning moments for Le Pen?
It's always a possibility. You never know with politics. Of course, the internal context, and I would say even the civilizational context between France and the USA is very different. It is true there is a long, let's say, exhaustion of the current political situation in France now. People do regularly in the polls condemned every kind of politician who is accused of corruption, misuse of public funds. So this is not something that is seen positively, especially for a party and a candidate like Mrs. Le Pen or a party who have been for long time saying that the system was rigged, that the system was corrupted, and at the end of the day, it appears they are like everyone else, or at least like they accused everyone else to be.
All right. Thank you so much for helping us unpack all of this. I really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you.
Take care. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.